How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
India encouraged, not burdened by the weight of their expectation. New Zealand always ready to compete, so hard to beat. It is India versus New Zealand in the final of the ICC Champions Trophy 2025. Build up to it on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Match Day, powered by Thumbs Up. Thumbs up to Sanjay Manjrekar, back in studio with me.
Two thumbs
all
up
set.
to you.
All set.
Yes, two teams very compatible with the pitch that we have in Dubai, and the most deserving teams to get through to the finals. India start as favourites, although New Zealand not too far behind.
All right. On that note, let's welcome the rest of the panel, shall we? And Sanjay Manjrekar will ask you a lot of questions today, Anil Kumble and Tim Southee. I hope you're all ready for it. Firstly, good afternoon to Anil and a good evening to Tim. Anil, good. Agree with Sanjay's point, yes?
Yes, certainly agree with Sanjay. It's two deserving teams. I mean, the most consistent teams over the last few years in terms of ICC tournaments and in white ball cricket. New Zealand have always been there. I mean, they're the ones who will challenge India today. It's not going to be easy for India. I agree with Sanjay that the conditions, are sort of in Dubai slightly different to Pakistan, but New Zealand, having sort of had a taste of those conditions against India last weekend, will certainly be better prepared coming into this final.
Tim, how are we feeling from New Zealand's point of view? The fact they played that game, we're almost expecting New Zealand to be even more prepared, even more ready than what we saw when these two teams previously met.
Yeah, it should be a cracking match. I think the two best sides throughout the tournament, not only the two best sides, but I think the two best balanced sides. I think we look at the balance of both sides for the conditions that they're going to be faced with. I think we've got a great matchup and not only the spin department but also the pace department, and also there's batters, star-studded batting lineups as well. So I'm excited. I know India are favourites, but that's something that as Kiwis we're used to flying in and never really been favourites. So that won't worry the guys, and we're here at the final, and anything can happen. So I'm sure it should be a great match, and like you touched on, they had a hit out there a few days ago, and I'm sure they'll be better for that.
Sorry, I lost a bit of volume. I thought you'd finished. I just want to say nothing new for New Zealand, because whenever they are pitted against any opposition in the big matches, their opposition start as favourites. So it's something like, okay, so be it, and they are accustomed to this. As I said, India favourites, but by a small margin. And they've got 4 spinning options, and I just wonder whether they'll go out of the box a little bit and have somebody like a Devon Conway batting down the order to counter the 2 left-arm spin arms. I've said the cat among the pigeons instead of a Daryl Mitchell. Wonder whether that will happen.
Interesting. I will bring that up and go deeper into it.
For me,
yes, Anil, please.
Yeah, just to add to that, I agree that maybe perhaps New Zealand will consider Devon Conway, but not instead of Daryl Mitchell. I would certainly look at, in case Matt Henry is absolutely fit, he's ready to go, then maybe one of the faster bowlers, if the surface is very similar to what we saw when India played New Zealand, maybe Willow Rook. Instead of him, have a Devon Conway. You have enough bowlers in your lineup, and spinners. Daryl Mitchell can bowl a bit of steam up with the keeper up. Not easy in those conditions. So maybe that's one thing that I would look at if the surface is very similar to what New Zealand played when New Zealand played India.
Didn't New Zealand seamers against India when they played the last time in Dubai? I think the seamers ended up getting more wickets, if my memory serves me right.
Yes.
So that's some merit in maybe sticking to the 3 bowlers, but it's a good point.
Why don't I bring in the Kiwi, since the two Indians are very keen to talk about the New Zealand team? Tim.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
There you go.
Devon Conway's a class player, and very unlucky to miss out. But that shows you the depth of the squad, and I think the strength in New Zealand is we don't overthink things, and I think introducing something like that at this stage of the tournament is probably not the way that New Zealand will go. I think they'll trust the guys that have done the job to get us there. I think we saw, as Sanjay touched on, Matt Henry took 5 wickets, and the other seamers sort of chipped in and around. So there's certainly a job. There's a lot of talk about the spin, but I think there's still a job to be done with the seamers, and it's an exciting matchup. I think I look at Mohamed Shami and Matt Henry if he's fit, two of the best one-day bowlers in the world at the moment. So I can't see New Zealand getting too funky with their selection. It's one of the strengths is the consistency in what they do and the consistency in personnel and style that they want to play. So I'd as hard as it is on Devon Conway and a great player of spin, I think they'll stick with I guess the status quo that they've had throughout the tournament.
Another 7 or 8 minutes and we'll find out more. Matt Henry did train on the eve of the final, but we're hearing from our people at the ground in Dubai that he is not warming up as things stand, with both teams warming up just before the toss. So we'll find out whether that means anything at all.
I think that means a lot. If he's not warming up along with the other teams,
so he might miss out
at the ground. Like Tim, if you don't see a bowler warming up with the others who are in the team, that is almost like a certainty he might not be playing, or you see things differently, Tim?
Yeah, that is concerning to hear that. Like I said, I think Mohamed Shami and Matt Henry have been two of the greatest one-day bowlers in the last wee while. So that's a big blow if that's the case. I know Matt very well. He's a tough player. He's a tough guy. For him to not be there, he must be in some serious pain. But if that's the case, then it's an opportunity for someone else, and an opportunity for someone else to come in on what better stage, a final in an ICC event. So we'll have to wait and see. But that will be a big loss, but it also presents an opportunity for someone else to come in, and what a place to come into.
Rohit Sharma will be relieved if Matt Henry is not running in bowling with the new ball, because he hates Matt Henry for what he does to him, even in test matches on Indian pitches and here as well. So that's great news for the India captain.
I will just put a pin in it for 5 minutes to make sure that is indeed the case, and then we can discuss the effects of Matt Henry potentially missing out. We're just a few minutes away from finding out more. But this is a final, and there is so much riding on this final. Rohit Sharma, as mentioned by Sanjay Manjrekar, how much is at stake here for Rohit Sharma, who just wants to win ICC trophies, how it would feel to win an ICC ODI event after 12 years. These two teams, very proficient in making it to the finals of ICC events. If you just look at the number of appearances that New Zealand and India have had, they're just one of the two most consistent teams when it comes to ICC knockout events, men's events, since 2011 in all formats, right up there, 1 and 2. It tells you that these are two teams well-oiled, well-ready for the big stage, Sanjay Manjrekar. But how do India look at New Zealand? Perhaps with perhaps a slightly greater element of anxiety or nervousness than even in Australia or in England.
See, Australia, they would have worried about Australian temperament coming into that match. They were missing some key players. With New Zealand, they are worried about the skills that New Zealand have. They have at least 4 batters in the top 6 who are good against spin, and 4 class spinners as well. When you look at the New Zealand bowling attack, they have 6 bowling options, and none of that bowler, of the 6, is a part-time bowler.
Yeah. So that's a very skillful team. Anil, this rivalry, it's evolved in its own way. New Zealand winning the World Test Championship, India losing that 2019 semi-final, coming back in the 2023 semi-final. There is an impression that New Zealand are a harder team to beat for India than some others.
Yeah, they are. One is because of the experience that they have in their lineup. Experience of playing in these conditions, experience of handling Indian spinners on a regular basis, whether be it in international cricket or in the IPL. So the comfort of knowing what that spinner does or what the bowler does is there with this New Zealand lineup. And recently as well, they come really well prepared. If you look at even this Champions Trophy, before it started, yes, New Zealand would play most of their matches in Pakistan, so they came over and had a triangular series with Pakistan and South Africa. So that way they are prepared. Even when they came and beat India in test match in the recent test match series, they had been to Sri Lanka. Yes, they lost the series, but that was in good preparation. So I guess in terms of understanding what the team needs to do for a tournament, I think New Zealand do it really well. And even coming into this game, that's one of the reasons why I said that their last week's game against India will certainly stand them in good stead, because learnings from there and the confidence that this team has of reaching the final, they just really bulldozed South Africa in that semi-final. To get 360, no matter what the conditions, and literally, steamrolled. We felt that South Africa were really good coming into this tournament, and yet they sort of went past them easily. So that confidence, yes, it's going to be a tough team to beat. And like I mentioned, they feel comfortable again. Yes, they may not have had the great sort of result last game against India, but the comfort of knowing that they have faced these four spinners before in these conditions, I think will certainly help them.
Tim, I genuinely want to ask you, flip it around now. I know you always think of your own team, not the opposition, but at any point, did the New Zealand team start feeling like, yeah, we're the team that's getting the better of India. This is a final that we don't mind, and we know India think about us in that way.
Yeah, a lot of energy, like a lot of focus is spent obviously on your own team. You don't think too much about how the other team's looking, but it's always nice when you have had success against that side. And a number of guys play multi formats, have obviously had the recent experience in India and the conditions. I think the way that our batters have improved against spin in the last few years has been incredible. I think you not only seen guys being willing to sweep, but also reverse sweep. The amount of reverse sweeps you see from likes of Daryl Mitchell, who's a power hitter, for him to be able to develop his game and change his game to play spin as well as he has is I guess testament to how well we've done in that part of the world. But it's always nice when you come up against a side that you have beaten and you have had success against. But yeah, I think it doesn't count for much in a one-off final. India have obviously won the last couple of encounters, but this is. It should be a great match and one the guys I'm sure will be looking forward to and understand that what's happened before doesn't really matter for much now.
Okay, interesting. Well, there's a lot at stake because India, we tend to put a lot on performance in ICC events and we expect the team to actually go all the way, anything short, and it seems like India have underperformed, and that's been Rohit Sharma's legacy as captain of the ODI side or the white ball side. He's retired now from T20Is. But as we just cast an eye on Rohit Sharma's record in ICC events, right, under Rohit the captain, we've seen semi-final run just short of the final in 2023 in both the World Cup and the Test Championship. Winning the T20 World Cup would have meant so much to him emotionally, Sanjay Manjrekar. Yeah. And that's a high win percentage he has, yet it's one trophy.
Yeah, like I mean, it's a little unfair to judge him on that because he's almost reached there and not able to get the final, prize for it. Now, 2023 One Day International World Cup was played in India and at Ahmedabad, and I thought that had a lot to do with India just feeling the moment. And you could see that come into play in the way they played. They didn't play it like all the other matches before that. I don't see that happening today because there's absolutely no atmosphere in Dubai. Very close to the one that we had at the Narendra Modi Stadium. So I think that will take some pressure off. So it will be just two skilled teams ideally suited for these conditions. And India won't have that kind of baggage of expectation that they were feeling very palpably in Ahmedabad.
So this is just about emotions, you're saying, that the occasion got to them there.
Emotions can beat India in this tournament because otherwise, when you look at 1 to 11, all of them are in good form, cricket-wise.
I wonder, Anil, if you want to weigh in on that, add to it as well. We were wondering whether this is actually a stronger team or as strong a team as 2023. Of course, there's no Bumrah here, but somehow there seems to be an impression of, are they just as strong? Have the conditions made them stronger? Are they still overwhelming favourites today?
I think we certainly thought that if the conditions were batting friendly, then, Jasprit Bumrah would be sorely missed. But since the conditions have sort of been difficult for the batters to come in and straight away get the better of a bowler until you get used to the conditions, the fourth spinner usage of Varun Chakravarti coming into the side has certainly sort of bridged that gap of missing out on Bumrah. And Shami coming back, he's a serious contender. I mean, like Tim Southee mentioned, one of the best white ball bowlers in international cricket today, Mohammad Shami, and he showed that even on his return. He picked up 5 in his first game in this Champions Trophy, and his experience and his expertise will certainly be needed. But I think India, with the two all-rounders, has certainly brought about a strong balance in their lineup, with Akshar Patel and Jadeja. Of course, Hardik Pandya is there. So you have 3 out-and-out all-rounders who can just play as batters or bowl their overs. And that, I think, has been the strength of this lineup, which possibly was not there in that final against Australia at Ahmedabad.
Anil, just,
So I
yeah.
think in that sense, it's a lot stronger.
Anil, I'll just stick with you one more thing on how much this final and India's result in it depends on, say, what's at stake for Gautam Gambhir in his first ICC event.
Yeah. No, it's massive because, since the time that he has come in, there's been a lot of focus on Gautam, his style and his, of course, he was new to coming into this Indian setup as a coach. He was at best looked at as a mentor for KKR. And as soon as he came in, that loss against Sri Lanka in that one-day series, and of course the two Test series loss against New Zealand and Australia, certainly put Gautam on that focus and under focus, under scrutiny. So this final and only a win will sort of help Gautam feel comfortable, because anything less, I don't think the focus again will come back on Gautam Gambhir.
All right, big news from Dubai. The toss has taken place. Rohit Sharma cannot win a toss to save his life. New Zealand have won the toss. Mitchell Santner will bat first. This is
Not
different
surprising.
from what happened
Yeah,
in the
because
group
they batted
game.
second,
Sanjay.
right, in the group
Yes,
game,
they
and
chased.
found going quite tough. And I think it's a good move. There's never any dew in Dubai, so that's a good toss to win. It's all down to how the cricket is played now.
Tim Southee, reaction on New Zealand doing it differently in the final than the previous game, batting first.
Yeah, I think that's probably one thing that they've seen from the previous experience last week. So won the toss. They obviously had to go out and it's something they did well in the semi-final. Went out and put a big score on the board. So I think the surface will be slightly different. I don't think it'll be a high scoring affair like we saw in the semi-final that they played. But runs on the board, and I don't think India will be too displeased either. Obviously, they enjoy chasing. So it should be. It's all set up nicely. Yeah.
Would India mind this toss result though, Anil? They like a score in front. They got over the line in the semi-final against Australia. India bowling first. How do you sense they'll react?
I guess the team would be certainly doubly sure after 14 on 14, doubly sure that Rohit won't win that toss in the final, and probably prepared to bowl first, because in a final in Dubai, I'm sure New Zealand would have batted first. But depends on the surface, right? I mean, if you look back at that Australia game, Australia batted first, scored 260, and India chased it down. So in that sense, I don't think India will sort of look to worry too much about the toss. I think what will be important is New Zealand, like Tim Southee mentioned, in that semi-final, they won the toss, batted first. They know how to set up a score. So India will be looking to sort of make those early inroads with the new ball and then put pressure on New Zealand, because you never know what's a good score here, whether it is 250 or 270 or 280. We don't know the surface yet. So they'll probably be a bit circumspect early on, New Zealand wanting to assess the conditions again. But in that, if India can sort of put pressure on New Zealand, pick up a couple of early wickets, then that will continue for a bit longer with this with this New Zealand lineup.
Okay, let's give you some information, and this time I am sure it is the India-Pakistan surface. I probably got the final script on the semi-final day the other day. Same surface as India-Pakistan. Akash Chopra says pitch is very dry and rock hard, among other things. But that's what we
dry
have.
and rock hard is not such a bad thing for India. Dry and a bit crumbly, like the one that we had in Ahmedabad, where India really struggled. So this is not such bad news for India. The thing that happens, I mean, New Zealand want to obviously bat first on this pitch. They had a look at the pitch, conducive to spin, and hoping that it will get slower and a little more difficult in the latter half. But Virat Kohli, in the kind of form that he is in, and chasing is one of the things that he loves to do. It's not such a bad thing for India too. Well, there's only one thing that I know about finals is that curators put in a little more work in the pitch or in the final game, unless, it is like specially designed to suit somebody. I don't think that's the case.
Okay. More information from Akash's pitch report was he doesn't expect patches to break, not a lot of turn, and as the day goes on, the pitch will continue to wear. Batting first key, and the teams will look to score 270 and more. That's what Akash Chopra said, looking at the surface. Big news from New Zealand's point of view. Matt Henry, wonderful bowler that he is, unfortunately misses out in the final of the Champions Trophy. In comes Nathan Smith. Tim Southee, big decision, this big story, this given how reliant New Zealand are on Matt Henry.
Yeah, massive news. He's had a wonderful tournament, leading wicket taker in the tournament so far, and touched on it earlier. And he's a tough guy, so he must be in some pain. But obviously the fear of letting his teammates down and entering the game injured and not being able to partake as a fully fit player has obviously been the defining moment. But like I said, it presents an opportunity for Nathan Smith to come in. Again, an exciting player, young in his international career, but he's certainly got the skill and the temperament to come into a final like this and have an impact as well. So I'm excited for him. Absolutely gutted for Matt Henry. He's been a key man for New Zealand in one-day cricket for a long time. Coming off 5 for against India, and 5 for at that ground as well a few days ago. So massive loss for New Zealand, but I'm excited and I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that Nathan Smith will have.
How do you see New Zealand setting up without Henry, though? I know it's a conversation for later, Tim, but Nathan Smith, does that change how Santner's tactical plans will set up this evening?
Yeah, it is. It's I guess a like-for-like swap would have been fit to bring in Jacob Duffy, who's more of a new ball bowler. So we may see Will O'Rourke take the new ball. We may see Nathan Smith take the new ball. Both have the skill and the ability to take the new ball. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But that's, I guess, the beauty of the squad. You've got a number of guys that can cover different positions. So Nathan Smith's more than capable of taking the new ball, and he's more than capable of bowling first change or through the middle as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And if they wanted an out-and-out new ball bowler, then I guess Jacob Duffy would have come in. So maybe we will see Will O'Rourke take the new ball.
I see more spin now coming into play. Now, I don't see Jason Smith, with due respect to him, bowling his 10 overs, Nathan Smith. And Glenn Phillips has bowled 6 overs, 7 overs sometimes. So I see Glenn Phillips being used a lot more, and that is where New Zealand have the advantage. They've got these 6 bowlers, out of which anyone can bowl the 10 overs on a given day.
Yeah, I think, interestingly, they didn't bowl Glenn Phillips in that India-New Zealand game, if I remember correctly, which was a bit of a surprise. Used a little more of Rachin, and it was interesting that he didn't bowl that
Pakistan
route.
at the first game, he ended up bowling 6 overs. There's been longest spell that he's bowled. So that
maybe they were saving him.
Yeah. Yes, Tim.
Trump card for the final.
Yep.
Maybe they're saving Glenn Phillips for the final.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit if he ends up with 4 or 5 in bizarre time. But anyway.
And a couple of catches.
On
the way.
just to top it all up. India are unchanged. So the 4-man spin attack that seemed to be a masterstroke as the tournament went deep. Perhaps the fact that they qualified for the semis allowed them to field this team against New Zealand, and after the results it yielded, it's not going anywhere. Sanjay.
Isn't this where Varun Chakravarti made a comeback?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
New Zealand game.
and got 5
and player of the match.
Yeah, and he got 3 lower order wickets. So that is where his prowess comes in. That when batters are looking to recover or score quickly, Varun Chakravarti doesn't allow it. And when you look at in-form batters, Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Virat Kohli, Iyer, KL Rahul in the last game, everybody is looking good, and that is where India is looking strong. Form-wise, each individual is looking good.
Anil, let's talk about areas that still perhaps need some polishing. From what you saw in the semi-final, India once again bowling first. What would you like to see from the unchanged team?
I think early wickets, Shami has to lead this bowling attack. And Akash Chopra feels that 270 is something that whoever is batting first, New Zealand would look to get there. But I think India will sort of look at, if it's the same surface that India played on against Pakistan, then around that 240, 250 mark, I think India would be comfortable. I don't think India would want New Zealand to get to that 270 or 280 mark. And that's where I feel the game will look to change, because this is the final. Yes, Sanjay spoke about the pressure when you compare this with Ahmedabad or Dubai, but I think it's a final. So every time you walk into a final, there will be certain pressure. You would want, since you have 6 bowlers, out and out bowlers who can pick wickets. The middle overs are going to be critical. And from an Indian perspective, you need to get Kane Williamson early, because we have seen that whenever Kane Williamson bats for a long period of time, especially when you're batting first, New Zealand posts a really good score. So Kane Williamson becomes the key wicket for India at number 3.
The more I look at this, Ronak, I feel how the pitch changes in the second half when India is chasing. If the pitch remains somewhat similar, then India is looking good with the chase masters that they have. But if it changes dramatically and becomes really slow and, tough to score, then, it will be a tough chase for India.
Let's talk about Kane Williamson, since Anil has brought him up. Tim knows him better than anybody, and we wonder where Kane Williamson stands when it comes to wanting to win those finals. Every player wants to. We've made we've not hidden how much the Indian superstars love to win tournaments. Kane Williamson, does he see himself as this one thing that's still to be ticked, an ICC ODI final, Tim Southee?
Yeah, I think everyone wants to win, and especially win world events. So, come extremely close a couple of times, and I'm sure that Kane would love to tick that off the list, and no better opportunity than tonight. So yeah, I'm sure that although he's not driven by individual milestones and individual records, I'm sure winning events as a team, and those are the moments that you cherish forever. So I think as players, you look back and those are the memories I'm sure that will stick with guys for a long time, and for him to be able to win a white ball title would be, I think, fitting for such a class player.
Played a fine innings against India as well in the last game. Outstanding in the semi-final.
Yeah.
Does he wake up and feel different on finals days, Tim, from anything that you can recall? Someone who's more up for finals than, say, any other day?
No, he's probably the most consistent guy in his behaviours that I've ever come across. I think nothing ever phases him. You look at him, and he even when he bats, he could be on 5 or he could be on 150, and you wouldn't know. So not much phases him. He doesn't give much away. I'm sure there's a few extra nerves, but he has a great way of hiding any sort of emotion. So I'm sure you'll see him today. He'll be sitting there, and there won't be a lot of emotion on his face, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of determination to do well.
Right. Let's talk.
It's a bit like Anil Kumble, actually.
Really?
Because when Anil Kumble was, in his prime, he would be bowling the 30th over without a wicket, but his enthusiasm to bowl every ball was the same as him having bowled 25, 30 overs with 9 wickets in the kitty. So Kane Williamson and Anil Kumble have that thing in common for sure.
Go on then, Anil.
Thank you. I learned from the master. I told you even
He doesn't take praise well.
I learned. No. I learned my action from the Spin King who's sitting in the studio.
This man.
I was saying that in all seriousness.
Yeah.
No.
He's a humble man. He gets awkward when you.
But it's a good question, because there are some of these players who just raise their game on a given, day. Brian Lara was once a guy. Chandapal told us he just came looking different when he had his mind on getting 100. He's one of those guys, genius kind of player who could get 100 almost at will. So, but Kane Williamson is a bit like...
I think Tim's point that he gives very little away is the key. Maybe he's feeling all of it, but he just
a bit like
doesn't
MS.
give it all away. Yeah, MS. Yep. Right, let's talk tactics, shall we? We expect spin to play a big part in the final of the Champions Trophy. We've got 2 of the best spin attacks in the tournament. India and New Zealand right up there. Credit to New Zealand once again coming to a tournament with the armoury and arsenal that's needed to win. Dot ball percentage above 50% for both teams, the only 2 teams to have those numbers. The average is good, the economy is steady, and they've got 38 wickets between them. India, of course, leading the chart. We'll also look at numbers of how batters have played spin and try and break down how New Zealand would have planned for playing India spinners better than they did in the last game.
I think Rachin Ravindra is going to be the key. In the last game, he didn't get too many. I think Hardik Pandya got him out, so he'll make sure that he's there playing the spinners later. I just have a plan that something that I have in mind is that the guys who are efficient against spin have to just bat longer and not allow Daryl Mitchell and Phillips to come in a bit too early. So those guys like Tom Latham and battled before him, just stay that much longer, play deeper.
Yeah, let's look at New Zealand's efficiency against spin. Something we brought up before the tournament too. They have some impressive numbers. New Zealand, for a Sena nation who've just pretty much mastered the art of playing spin in our part of the world. We saw that in the test matches in India too. We'll get those numbers for you. There you go. And you've got, well, this is a different one. This is the best strike rates against batters that take
aggressive
down
intense
spin.
shots. Wow, that's brilliant.
All right, but let's stick to the larger point. We'll stick to the larger point of how to counter India's spin challenge. Anil?
No, I think, they certainly have some class batters in their lineup. Rachin Ravindra is a classic example. He certainly has the ability, the skill, and he bats really well. He uses his feet, not just gets at the bowler when he steps out. He just goes back, rocks back. He has a free flow as well. I think what stopped him in that last game was the surface, because the surface was really stopping and coming. When Shami hit the deck, it was hardly coming through. So you'll know in the first couple of overs itself that what kind of a pitch is this. If this is similar to the one that India played Pakistan, I think Rachin Ravindra will like it. The ball coming on slightly better is something that I'm sure he likes, because he has those on the rise strokes. So I feel the three batters who are critical for New Zealand's success today would be Rachin Ravindra at the top, Kane Williamson, and Latham. These three are really good in terms of handling not just the bowling, but also getting runs and ensuring that they get big runs. All three of them are capable of scoring hundreds, and one of them will have to do that. If not, two of them. If two of them do that, then they are in really comfortable position. But if one of them do it, I think that's what New Zealand will be hoping for today.
And I also see only Rachin Ravindra being aggressive against spin. All the others, Will Young, Tom Latham, Kane Williamson, will play spin properly. I mean, they'll respect the spinners and try and tick off, singles and twos. But Rachin Ravindra has the big game, has the confidence. He doesn't attack because he feels that's a way out, counter attack and get yourself out of trouble. He dominates because he feels that he can dominate. So I see Rachin Ravindra as a very dangerous player for the two left-arm spinners in this Indian team. The rest are all test batters who played in that home series on turning pitches against the Indian spinners. So they'll trust their defense and their second gear game as well.
It's very interesting you bring up the second gear game because a number of those batters did get out trying to find the boundary. Latham tried to sweep. Mitchell played an aggressive shot. And what we've seen of Virat Kohli and Shreyas Iyer in the semi-final, high percentage of runs in non-boundaries. And we'll bring up those numbers too. And I wonder if New Zealand would have discussed this, that the way to skin the game here is to get as many runs through the gaps in ones and twos.
Daryl Mitchell and Glenn Phillips are a little more kind of hard hand batters. Now, Virat Kohli has found that template. I think that single picking opportunity and the mastery that he had over that seemed to have gone away from him. So these are highest percent of non-boundary runs. Virat Kohli is 82%, which is no surprise. I'm surprised with Josh Inglis that he had.
And this is just against spin, just clarifying. So just
that's
outstanding
a very
abilities.
good graphic, as you would expect. So Tom Latham, Will Young, Kane Williamson and Rachin Ravindra have this kind of a game. I'm not sure about Darren Mitchell. I think he needs a few boundaries to feel confident, and Glenn Phillips as well. So I believe the first four batters in that batting order just have to bat a little longer so there is no attack out of desperation from people like Daryl Mitchell and Glenn Phillips if the singles don't come. And there are five fielders inside the circle.
Is that perhaps something we'll see in the first half, Tim? How do New Zealand prepare in these things? They're obviously very methodical. Do they look a lot at numbers like that and say, yeah, that's what we got wrong in the last game. This is how we're going to get to 270, 280 today?
I think you look at the personnel on the side and you got four of the top five guys have got hundreds throughout the tournament. One guy's got two. So that the form's there. I guess the conditions are slightly different, but they had a chance on this wicket a week or so ago. So I think you look at the makeup of the team and you look at those guys, your Williamsons, Lathams, Youngs, to set the foundations for the likes of Mitchell and Phillips, Bracewell, Statner to be able to come in and I guess finish off on the back of what those guys have set up. And if they're asked to come in too early, then I guess that job for them is slightly different. So I think if those guys can set it up, then it sets it up nicely for those guys to be able to come in towards the back end and take a total through to what we saw in that semi-final and what we saw in the first game against Pakistan as well of the tournament. So the balance of the side, a lot of that work and a lot of that batsmanship has to come from that top order to set up a platform for the likes of those power hitters and those guys that like to hit the boundaries later on. But they know that they'll run hard between wickets. They'll look to hit gaps as well as boundaries when the opportunities arise.
Mitchell Santner, now Tim, he just has this amazing feel for spinners. Is there any way on this big day that New Zealand might look to use Santner, the batter, a little more? It's not New Zealand style to think differently.
No, I think it's he's obviously a quality batter as well, and I think you look at the batting lineup, they bat deep, even deeper today with someone like Nathan Smith coming in. So that may allow New Zealand to go slightly harder as well. But you got the likes of Bracewell, Satner, Phillips, and Mitchell. Those four in particular can take a game away from a side in a few overs. So if the top order set it up, then who knows what may happen towards the back end, whether they do look to use a Satner. But you've got other power hitters there as well, and Bracewell and Phillips. So luxury option to have, and it may be something that they may look at. But I imagine that they'll probably stick with what's been working.
Right. Well, as we just approach the final of the Champions Trophy, it's not the first time that India and New Zealand will play for this title. Way back, 25 years ago, the first ICC event that New Zealand won, it was called the Knockout. It was in Nairobi. It gave Indian cricket the very best of Yuvraj Singh and Zair Khan at the time. Saurav Ganguly led them to a final, only for Stephen Fleming's New Zealand to spoil the party. Chris Cairns battling hard on one leg, getting to 100 as 265, which was a more than respectable score. In fact, an above par score in 2000 was chased down in the final over.
It was a damn good pitch, and I remember being there doing commentary on that game, and Chris Cairns India had no answers for him. He's a big hitter, hit the ball straight. It was a very small ground as well. It was Nairobi Gymkhana ground.
That's right.
Yeah.
Were you critical of Anil Kumble's 2 for 55 of his 9 overs back then?
He could have been a little slower in the air, and the trajectory could have been a little different. But on a serious note, that is where Yuvraj Singh and Zair Khan were discovered. I'll never forget one of the most impressive first innings for India by Yuvraj Singh. It was the second game actually for India against Australia. Batted brilliantly. And Zair Khan, when he bowled the first time, Wasim Akram came up to me and said, this guy's good. He's quick in the air. He'll serve you guys well. And how right was he?
Yeah, Anil, one of those that you look back all this while, you sense, would have been nice to have won that one as well. No, another ICC title in the cabinet.
Yeah, I think halfway through that innings, in the second innings, we were pretty much sort of there. I think they lost about 5 wickets with more than 50% of the runs needed. And in walks Chris Cairns and then just looks to hit every ball in the air. And like Sanjay mentioned, we didn't have any answers because he was a bit injured. Yeah, he didn't want to run. Probably took the right option of attacking the bowlers, and then it worked. It worked in a way where he had Chris Harris who came in, and then they put up that partnership. Just took the game away from us, and by the time the game was over, I know when you look at the scorecard, it says just 2 balls to spare, but I think it was game, set, and match when Chris Cairns started to go after the bowlers.
There may be another innings, Anil, isn't it? He played at Pune, maybe against India, where he got another big one. So Chris Cairns loved
playing against India.
Yeah, playing against India.
Tim, you were a little boy back then, weren't you? Remember that one?
Yeah, I remember watching that. It was an amazing moment for New Zealand cricket. Inspired a lot of players. Certainly inspired me as a young cricketer. There was a great team sort of through that 99, early 2000s time. So it was a tournament that inspired me, and one that I really enjoyed watching as a kid. So for New Zealand to have won that was installed, I guess, belief in us as a country and as a cricketing nation. So much like this would as well if New Zealand were to win tonight, and what it would do for such a small country and such a proud country. But it's a lot of hard work to go on over the next few hours.
Okay, we're all set, almost there. Let's just get quick tactical suggestions, if I can put it that way. Rohit Sharma, last game, there was some opinion on how he would use his spinners, whether he's delaying his key spinners too much, allowing Smith and Labuschagne back in the game. What would you like to see from the Indian captain today?
I think he'll respect the presence of Rachin Ravindra, and a lot of his early bowling moves will depend on that. I don't think he'll get his left-arm spinners, at least in the first 10 overs, if Rachin is out there, because he'll play the ball in the air and get runs for it. Hardik Pandya is somebody that he'll use carefully. So to begin with, the normal sort of start Shami and Hardik Pandya, if they start responding and going after Hardik Pandya, you might see one of the spinners coming back. I don't see the 2 left-arm spinners coming in the first 10, either Varun or Kuldeep Yadav.
Varun most likely to come into the first 10. He got Travis Head in the first 10. Anil, you see a similar sort of use of the spinners by Rohit?
Yeah, I think one thing that I'd like to see more is the use of these two spinners in tandem, Varun Chakravarti and Kuldeep Yadav, because if you look back at the games that these two have played, the last three games, it's been sort of sporadic. I mean, Varun had bowled 3 overs in that first spell. He had picked up a wicket of Travis Head, and then he didn't bowl until for a while.
Yes.
I would like to see, because India needs to restrict New Zealand to less than 250. I mean, remember, this New Zealand team is really good in the field. They will save 20 runs.
Yeah,
So
good
it's
point.
as good as if you restrict them to 250, then you're chasing 270, 275, which is probably a par score on the surface. So India needs to really do well here, pick wickets at regular intervals, get your two wicket-taking bowlers. Yes, they may go for a bit of runs, but two wicket-taking bowlers in tandem for 8 to 9 overs, and that should sort of start putting pressure on the New Zealand batters.
I'm glad, before we wrap things up, actually, that fielding was brought up. Fielding, in many ways, set the course of the final in 2023, and India don't have as efficient a fielding team. There's no shame in saying they have 3 or 4 players that they need to manage in the field, which New Zealand
And the
don't.
outfield as well in Dubai. It's not the quickest like you have in
It's
India.
quite a big ground too.
Yeah, and the ball doesn't travel. So 250 against New Zealand, as you said, with the fielding would be like chasing 270. And most scores here, because of the outfield. In India, the outfield is lightning quick. So look at 250 differently as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, Tim, let's set it up. First innings, how do we see this going? I mean, I don't think you need to worry too much about fielding. Pretty much everybody does it well in the New Zealand team. But you can tell me if you think fielding could have big say in the eventual result of the final.
Yeah, I think fielding in any game has a big say, and that's why New Zealand pride themselves so much on the field, because you can make such a big difference in the way you field, and it flows on. It helps the bowlers. It creates an energy and an intensity for everyone to be able to buy in and follow. So fielding's always been a massive part of, I guess, the New Zealand cricket DNA. And this side is one of the better fielding sides we've put out. But obviously before we get there, we've got to bat well and put as many runs on the board as possible. I'd love to see somewhere up around that 280 mark, and then the way they field make that even more.
280 I think is what Tim Southee says. Anil Kumble, your first inning score.
Yeah, I think 250. I think India will be happy to chase that down.
Sanjay?
No predictions.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, I mean, how do you know? I mean, it's interesting that India will start off with Shami and Hardik Pandya. I'm already visualizing things happening there. Hardik Pandya will have to bowl 3-4 overs in his first spell. And with Rachin out there, he's not going to be looking to just dab Hardik Pandya away. So, they'll get the spinner on very quickly. So a lot of things very fluid. Prediction, very hard to
You're not
make
giving me a number?
No.
Okay,
I'll
fine.
avoid.
You disappoint me. Anyway, all right. Thank you very much, Sanjay Manjrekar, Anil Kumble, Tim Southee. More from these fine men at the end of the New Zealand innings. Before we wrap things up in the final, let me remind you that your opportunity to live your dream is going to be alive even after the final. ESPN Cricket for Crickcaster, powered by Nexa. If you've ever dreamt of being on this side of the game, breaking down moments, calling the action, and bringing the excitement to life, here's your chance to make it happen. All you need to do is record a 1-minute video showcasing your cricket passion, analyze, predict, simply speak your heart out. Post it on Instagram with the hashtags ESPN Cricinfo, Nexa, and Crickcaster. Don't forget to follow ESPN Cricinfo and Nexa Experience. Mic waiting, stage set. Are you ready? This is, of course, ESPN Cricinfo Crickcaster, powered by Nexa. Thank you.
This is a bit like Ronak Ki Khoj.
Ronak Ki Khoj.
Like we had Harsha Ki Khoj, Anil, remember, in the years gone by. So now we're looking for the next Ronak Kapoor.
I'm a humble man. I don't like to attach my name to properties, and I charge a lot for it, so that's the thing. We leave it there. Sanjay, thank you very much. Tim, sorry you had to endure that for the last few minutes. And Anil Kumble, always a pleasure, fine man that he is. We'll get him back at the end of the New Zealand innings to see where the final stands at the halfway point. Join us then for Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday, powered by Thumbs Up.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.